Welcome back, everybody. It is great to see you all again. Today is all about Capture One Pro and Affinity Photo and how I use both of these programs to produce the work that you see up on my website. So I thought I would take you behind the scenes a little bit, show you my process, and I'm going to be using images that I photographed at the Egg Harbor Library shoot that I featured in the video linked either above or below or wherever I remember to put it. So with that said, let's get into it. So you may notice that my Capture One looks a bit different than what you might see if you've downloaded the trial or you just opened it for the first time. Capture One, you can lay out your tools and your tool tabs however you want. It's totally customizable, which is what I really love about it. And so what I've done is I've gone with the migration workspace, which is really good for people who come from Lightroom because it's set up basically the way Lightroom is. All your tools and stuff are on the right-hand side. I went to migration and then I customized everything to have all the tools that I specifically need. This image straight out of the camera is pretty much good to go as a proof image. I think it's beautiful as is. However, it does need a little bit of love. And so the first thing that I do is I change my curve to one of the film presets that come built into Capture One. This is based on the GFX 50S, and so it's incredibly accurate to the JPEG film simulation modes you would get on a Fuji Film X Series or GFX Series camera. So I'm gonna just go with Provia Standard. Okay, so before I actually dig into this edit, I have to say there are three things that I love the most about Capture One Pro. The first being, regardless of the cameras that I've ever shot with, Capture One Pro has always given me the best quality imagery, especially with the Fujifilm X-Trans files. So the second thing that I love the most is layers. The fact that I can edit in layers in a RAW file converter is a game changer. Now I know that Lightroom, you can add brushes, but they just give you these little dots. There's no way to name them. There's no way to really organize them. And so it becomes really painful. And as most people know, slow. Capture One doesn't ever seem to hiccup or slow down when I'm adding additional layers for additional luminosity masks or anything like that. And so the third reason I would have to say is the color control. The fact that I can do luminosity masking within this program. Really, I do the majority of my edits in Capture One Pro, and then I finish in Affinity Photo. Let's get back into it, and I'll show you exactly what I do with this particular image. The first thing I want to do is really bring out the emotion from this photograph. It's lacking in some saturation. It's lacking in that drama that was actually there. And what I'm seeing here is, I've got some blown highlights up in these lights, of course. So I'm just going to go to my high dynamic range slider and I'm just going to pull those down. I'm going to lift my shadows a little bit. I'm going to go to like 15. From this point, I'm going to then increase the clarity a little bit, and I just use the natural method. And I usually go to about 15 because I feel like that's enough. And here's a little tip. You see these little reset buttons. If you click on Option or Alt, you can basically preview by clicking and it won't mess you up. You won't lose your setting. And then you can do the exact same thing on this main one up here. So here it was raw, and here we are. We're already getting pretty close to what I want the final to look like. Now I'm going to go into white balance, and I might just leave it as shot because it was pretty good as is, but I do want to warm it up a little bit. So I think I'm going to just click this and go 5800 Kelvin. And then I am going to take this down to 15 on the tint just because it was a little too red. Maybe it still is a little bit. 13 would be good. Okay, so that's looking really, really good to me. The thing that I would like to do next is I'm going to create a filled layer, and we're going to call this yellow lighting. And now what I'm going to do, this is one of the things that I love about this, like I said, is the color controls, is I'm going to go to the color editor tab, and then I'm going to click on advanced. When I click on advanced, I can just select this color range here, and then I can adjust this. I will also provide links in the description below on some tutorials that Phase One has on YouTube, and they're really good. It'll help you get set up really quick. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to desaturate first those yellows just a little bit, not too much. I'm going to change the hue, so I want them a little bit more natural. And then I'm going to pull the smoothness down a little bit, and then I'm going to pull the lightness down as well. I think I'll go right there, and I'll pull the saturation a little bit more. Okay, and I say that that is actually pretty good. Now if I go back up to layers, And so that's my mask. So you click M on the keyboard for mask, H for hand, V for the pointer. So now that I see that my mask is basically covering the entire thing, I can actually click the E key, which is the erase, and that gets me my erase tool. And then the other thing is I can adjust my opacity just like you would in Photoshop. So here I'm just going to erase so that I keep some of that warmth in the sky and in the grass in front. You can also right click. You can adjust your size, your hardness, everything that you would normally do. So I'm going to actually bring this up to about 55%, and then I'm going to pull more of that warmth into the grassy areas, because even though it was nighttime and the grass gets cool, photos are always a little prettier when they're warmer. Okay, then I click on M to hide the mask. Now I'm just going to click and toggle this mask on and off so I can see exactly what I did. And then I'm going to go back to the background, which is the main layer, obviously. And then on here, I'm going to go into my exposure. This is where your contrast, brightness, exposure, and saturation is. Now I'm going to pump up the saturation overall. That is looking really good. So I'm going to do a new gradient. And we're going to draw this gradient up here. And I'm just going to pull these down just a little bit to draw the eye up into the building. All right, I'm pretty happy with the way this is looking so far. I really like how the bottom is nice and dark. It's not too cold, and it's drawing the eye up into the building. But those yellows are still bugging me, so I want to tone those down a little bit. What I'm going to do is just add another layer. We're going to call this yellows 2. And basically what I just did is I created an empty layer, so I'm going to have to brush this in. So what I'm going to do next is go to my brush tool, and I'm going to turn off the auto mask. I'm right clicking, by the way, and hardness is 0. I'm going to put my opacity at roughly 75%. Here we go. Turn the mask on so I can see what I'm doing. Just going to paint it in a little bit and turn mask off. And now we're going to go back to the color editor and choose this orangey color that I'd like to make more yellow and pull down on the saturation a bit. There we go. Much better. Okay, so this photo is looking really good so far. I want to bring it into Affinity Photo now, but before I do, I'm just going to adjust the keystone and then show you how I round trip into Affinity Photo for finishing work. So I'm going to click on my keystoning icon here, and then it's just a simple drag to these key points. Okay, so now that I have my keystone lines in place, you just click on apply, boom, there it is. Go back to the hand tool. Now, in order for me to round trip this into Affinity Photo, I right click and I click on Edit with Affinity Photo. This is going to give me the option to choose either TIFF, JPEG, or PSD. I will use a PSD in 16-bit, Adobe RGB. That gives me the widest color gamut, resolution 300, and then the scale, we can leave it fixed at 100%. So now I'm going to edit what they call a variant. Okay, so here's the image in Affinity Photo. It looks very good so far. As you noticed, I didn't apply any sharpening or anything like that. There is really no need. I'm at, 200% right now, and man, the GFX is just insane for detail. Okay, so Affinity Photo is very similar to Photoshop. You have your tools on the left, and you have your layers palette and stuff on the right. It should be pretty easy. I would recommend you download a trial. There's a link in the description below. Get your hands on it, and you'll find that you really, really like it too. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start cloning. The first thing I do is I create a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer Clone. And then I go to the In-Painting Brush tool. In-Painting Brush tool would be similar to a blemish removal tool, only I think it's better than Photoshop's blemish removal tool. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this mess of rocks in the middle. So just like in Photoshop, right bracket increases the brush size, left bracket decreases. You have your opacities, you have your flow, all that good stuff. It is very similar. I'm going to turn the hardness way down because I want things to blend good. So at the In-Painting Brush tool, you just basically paint over the area, let it do its thing. that looks really good. Some of these weeds in the front are bugging me, so I'm just going to get rid of those. Yeah, I like that. Get rid of that guy because he looks clony. And let's see here. I'm going to get rid of some of those. And deal with some of that there. I don't mind this house in the background. I do not like these bright spots here, so I'm just going to kind of do that. And then I'm going to get rid of this lamp. Just like that. Excellent. There's a little bit of noise right there. There we go. That fixed it. Okay, and then we have that exit sign that I was talking about originally. So I'm going to get rid of that guy. Beautiful. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Yeah, I like that. And then we're going to get rid of this lamp post over here. This is what I love about the in-painting brush tool. It is just so easy. And then let's just get rid of this car and that signage and everything all at once. Boom, looks gorgeous. And we'll get rid of this car as well. Okay, so I'm super happy with the way that this photo looks so far. However, there's just a few tweaks that I'd like to make, and so I'm going to do this with layer adjustments. And so I'm going to go into here and I'm going to choose levels. And that's going to basically create a levels mask for this photo. And I'm going to increase the gamma just a hair. And I'm going to bring up the white level just a little bit, because what I want to do is brighten up those whites a little, and then I'm going to crush the blacks a little bit more. Okay, so now what's great is I'm going to select all. I'm going to go into my color swatches here, X to switch back and forth just like in Photoshop, and I'm actually going to fill this with black. Okay, so that way you don't see the edits yet. Okay, so if I choose to bring it up or down the gamma, you don't actually see it. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my brush tool, increase that, and then we're going to start brushing in those highlights right on the white parts of the building. This is how I do my dodging and burning. That way I can easily tweak it later if I need to. So we've got sun hitting here, which is really beautiful. Nice. So if I turn that layer off and on, you can see the difference. Now I've got to clean this area up over here. So I'm just going to hit X, and I'm going to change my hardness down to about 15%. There we go. And then my opacity is going to come down just a little bit too. There we go. Get that section here. Excellent. And then right up here by the chimney. Okay. All right, so there's one final thing that I like to add to my photographs, especially exterior photos, and that is a little bit of a solar flare, something that just cuts into the lens a little bit. I have a stock library of just general solar flare stuff that I've shot or stuff that I've created within programs, and so I'm going to add that right now. So this is the solar flare layer that I've thrown on here. And so what I do first is I go over here to screen, and then I usually go down to 15%. So there it is without, and there it is with. And that's what I think really gives the images some emotion. And it's basically what I felt. It's how the scene looked when I photographed it. And these cameras today are brilliant, and they do an awesome job photographing scenes and are very true to life. But sometimes you just got to add that little extra something to give it that emotion, that cinematic look. You know, I like to use different elements to do that, whether it's a texture overlay. Sometimes when I've photographed and it's been winter time, but the sky was just kind of gross, I will add in what looks like snow showers and blur the flakes and everything just to give it a little bit more realism, even though it wasn't really happening. So it's just another way of adding drama to a photograph and making that photograph more interesting to the client. So that's about it. That is my basic workflow. 70–80% of the work is done in Capture One Pro, and then I round trip into Affinity Photo for all the finish work, and then I can save it, and it saves it directly back into Capture One Pro. So if you like this video and you'd like to see more content specifically on Capture One Pro, Affinity Photo, and how I process and edit my photos, leave a like, leave a comment below, subscribe if you haven't already. I am planning to bring out more tutorial videos in the future, but if there's anything specific you would like to know, feel free, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.